Hey everyone, how's it going? Ooh, loud bird. So what am I working on now? Well, I got the 85 F350, and this is the video where I started with the tune-up. I was going to do the carburetor, but it was going to get way too long. So the carburetor's on it. So this is the video of me going through the carburetor and the things I did to it. It does run, but I still got a problem. So we're going to cover that in a little bit. But here's the video. And there's the carburetor on the vehicle. Sorry for the shadow, but I still got to put the rest of the stuff back on it. But like I said, I still got an issue, and I'm going to explain that and show you that. Okay, so I'm in the back room here. I got the carburetor on a bench, and this is where I'm going to build it. I'm going to take it apart here. I'm going to spray, clean it, whatever, out in the shop, because this is connected to the office through here, and I just don't want to get the stink into the office. But, you know, sometimes we do, and there's nothing we can do about it, but anyway, so let's get this thing apart. All right, so let's get this apart. Now, I've run into this before with these carbs. See how this top piece is loose? And I see people complain that they're afraid these screws are going to fall out. To be honest with you, these screws, that's tight. But now you go to loosen it, and it actually comes to a stop. It actually like locks in place. It's very, 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 very rare for these things to come out. Could it happen? Sure, I bet it could. I've never actually seen one come out. So anyway, we've got to take this thing apart. This stuff I don't think is correct for this vehicle. But let's see, what do we need to do to get this apart? We're going to take this fuel filter off. This is the factory fuel filter right here. And I can tell you, when these things plug up, they plug up quick. I may actually cut this thing open later on to see what's actually in it. See how nasty it might actually be, because it's a little tiny filter in here. I'm going to tell you a quick story here. I had a 76 F350, and it was a 400 cubic inch 2-barrel. Same filter on it. It was actually a tow truck. My first business was actually a towing business. Towing, plowing, stuff like that. And my very first tow call, I'm up on the highway, and all of a sudden it starts losing power, losing power, losing power, losing power, and dies. And I was, 18 years old, I think? And I was able to make it to a payphone, and I called my dad. So my dad came and picked me up, and it was a Sunday. It was like late in the day. There was no parts stores open, and I knew what it was. I knew the fuel filter was plugged up, but I couldn't get one. So then my dad had to drive an hour to come get me, an hour back home, and then the next day we had to go to a parts store, then drive an hour up to the tow truck, change the fuel filter, and then I was able to continue on my way. But I tell you what, when that thing plugged up, the only thing it would do was idle. Other than that, it had no power. It could not go anywhere. So anyway, it's neither here nor there, but I just thought I'd share that with you. And the name of the company was Wessel's All County Towing, in case you're wondering. All right, so let me see. What has to come apart here? Because I'm not quite sure. There's different linkages here for the choke mechanism. So let me just start by taking the top screws out from the top of the housing here. One of the old tricks that I learned when I was in auto shop class back in the day, when I was in high school, was whenever you did a tune-up, you always went over the screws on the carburetor, make sure they were tight, because they were a source of vacuum leaks, obviously, if they got loose. So that was considered part of a tune-up back in the day, was checking all the accessible hardware on a carburetor to make sure that everything was tight. Like, these screws are not overly tight, I will tell you that. Now there's lock washers on these too, so don't lose the lock washers. This one have one? This one doesn't have one. Neither does that one. Neither does that one. Come back here. Screw ran away from me. So I'm going to put them down there. I don't know what's attached here. I don't know what's what. Oh, there we go. I've actually never had one of these apart before. There's a piece of linkage on the side here, but I'm not quite sure what holds it together. So let me get some eyes in there. I actually have two pairs of glasses. I have these two, which are a stronger pair of glasses. Oh, and there is a little tiny clip right here. I don't know if you can see that. See it right there? That little teeny tiny clip. Right there. So let me go get my little carburetor tool. I've shown you that before. It's also referred to as a Jesus clip tool. I did not make up the name. That's just what it will refer to. So don't get mad at me for saying that, okay? All right, let me go get that tool so I can take that off. All right, so let me see if I can focus in on this a little bit so you can actually see it. So now this tool, I've showed you this before, it's got this little hook in there. Here's what the tool, I'll pull back on it later so you can see it better. And all you do is you go in, you grab the clip, and you pull the clip out. And it keeps the clip from flying. So I'm just going to leave it in there unless I need it for something else. Yeah, maybe not. There we go. All right. Let me back up. All right, so now I got that out of the way. I'm gonna look at the float. The float itself looks fine. Doesn't look like it's rotted or anything, but we're gonna take that off of there because we wanna make sure it doesn't have any liquid in it. And then we're gonna look down inside this bad boy. And look at that nastiness. All things considered, this carburetor is pretty darn clean. I'm gonna go dump this fuel out and we're gonna come back to this. One thing with this carburetor that's pretty interesting is that's the accelerator pump in there. If you're not familiar with an accelerator pump, it takes fuel from in here and dumps it in when you open the throttle. Because if you just open the throttle and you didn't have fuel dump in immediately, you get a severe bog or stall. So anyway, when I dumped the fuel out, these two pieces fell out, but they go right in here. Thankfully I saw that. With those pieces in place, this little tube here, this accelerator pump, this little tube will feed fuel pressure through here. See it? Like as I open the throttle, it's coming up through there, which, like I said, if that ball and that brass piece were in place, it would direct it through here. But yeah, so now I got to take everything apart and clean it up, and this thing should be good to go. The new kit, which this is it actually has that tube in it. I didn't open the seal yet. That's the accelerator pump. It's basically like a toilet plunger. All right, let's continue getting this thing apart. Okie dokie, so I'm putting a tripod here. I don't know what works better. I think this might work better. If I do this and then do this, the only problem is the angle of the dangle. All right, so now we're gonna start disassembling this. I already went over and I told you that the kit comes with this tube in here, so that's good. Now let's take these screws out. This carburetor has been apart before at some point in its life. I've never had one of these apart, so I'm going to be running into things that I've never dealt with before, I guarantee it. Just taking all the screws out of the accelerator pump. I think you can see what I'm doing. I prefer not to use power tools on something like this because a lot of times these screws are very difficult to find if you wind up messing one up. All I'm doing is putting a little pressure on this to see if I can't get it to come apart. Hang on one second. All right, sorry I had to pause you there for a minute. Obviously, I gotta have you at this weird angle because I can't see what I'm doing. And I'm not quite sure how this comes apart, so bear with me as I figure this out. Not quite sure. Yeah, not quite sure how this comes apart. Oops. Okay, so this is moving free at the bottom. Why isn't it lifting up? That's my question. So this piece is free from here, or is it? I wonder if I gotta take the base plate off. It's possible. Let's see. Oh, that screw's a little bent. So a lot of times when you're doing stuff like this, you've never done it before, it's just like a trial and error type of thing, and it's investigate as you come apart and pay attention to how things are coming apart. Because I am honestly not sure how this comes apart. There's a screw here too. I'm surprised whatever this lever is for free floats. Kind of surprised at that. Just trying to wiggle this back and forth because I believe this should come off of here, judging by how this looks. But she doesn't seem like she wants to move all that nice and friendly. Let's see. Interesting. I'm not quite sure why that is. Or maybe I just gotta do that. See, there's linkage right here, and I cannot figure out how that comes apart. Doesn't look like this end is moving all that much. It is moving. There it goes. Tell you what, that's a tight fit on there. There it goes. But the fact that it's got a drive hole to it, I figured this thing had to come apart. Just an E-clip here. Nice thing about making a video on this too is it should help me to put it back together. Oh, cool. There's actually a set screw on here. Right there. There we go. So now that comes off. And now I believe, because I think this is part of that accelerator pump. Yeah. There we go. Now, these diaphragms can rip. This one actually looks like it's okay, but we're replacing it anyway. There's a little rubber gasket there. Then we have a gasket down at the bottom here. That's probably going to be a bear to get out. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be a bear to get out. But I got to clean that surface. I got to get that out. Now, I'm going gently with the screwdriver along the edge because I don't want to gouge anything. All right, I'm going to have to get in there somehow and clean that. This should be one of the idle jets probably. And the reason I said this thing's already been apart is because this thing had some maul marks on it. I don't know if you can see that. There's witness marks from a screwdriver being on that at some point in time. It may be. Nope. I thought there might have been possibly a ball or something down there. There's another one of those seats for a jet here. Take that out. Just throw that to the side. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get down there with a plastic scraper and start scraping the rest of that. I'm probably not going to go any further on actually taking this apart. And then what we're going to do is we are going to spray this thing out. Like I use carburetor cleaner. Let's see, what do I use? I use this. And what I will do is I will take the little straw here and I will go into each of those areas like here where that jet sat, and down inside here. Sorry, same thing in there. Through this hole, basically any place where there's a spot where fuel can go through, I will clean that. And basically just want to clean this whole thing up. I may as well actually unbolt these brackets just so they're not bothering anything and I don't accidentally mess them up. I don't even know if they actually work. Well, this one here, this stepper motor, I don't think actually had anything plugged into it, if I'm not mistaken. Set that off to the side. There's my carburetor numbers that I couldn't see before. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. Let me just get this off of here. Whoops. Dang it. Drop that. But anyway, here are the numbers, and of course they were absolutely buried before. You could not see them, they were hidden. So I had to make an educated guess as to what this carburetor was, and I am pretty confident I was correct. So it's a Carter. Let me clean this off. Let me just verify that the kit I got is correct. Everything in it looks correct, so I'm thinking it is correct. But let's do that, and then I'm going to start cleaning this up. So one tool in my arsenal is this. It's basically a X-Acto knife. But I have a little kit. I picked it up cheap somewhere. I don't remember where. It might have been like Kmart or something like that, but I bought it years ago. I don't use it all that often, but it really comes in handy. And this one especially is like a straight, like the cutting edge is on the front edge, instead of on the side. So the front edge is what cuts. So to get down inside that carburetor, I can do that. But here's the kit. Like I said, I've had this thing for years and years and years. Just don't recall where I got it. Could have got it at Tractor Supply, could have got it at Kohl's. I don't remember, I just don't recall. But yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna get down inside this thing and scrape that out. I did start scraping it out a bit. I also used this to help me. And this is basically a trim tool for like a door panel. And I also used a little screwdriver too, but you just gotta be careful. You don't wanna scratch it up. So, basically, what I'm gonna try to do. Now you can see some silver markings on there, but those are that's just from the screwdriver. It's not like it's gouged up or anything like that. It is lightly scratched, but it's not going to hurt nothing. But it's like, I'm not even sure how I'm going to get all of this out of here. That's the problem. It's just basically being very ginger with the tool. Or gingerly do it gingerly, you know what I mean. And there you can actually see a little bit of the aluminum came up with it, but it's okay. You just, like I said, you just don't want to gouge the snot out of it. If I can't get it all off, what I'm going to probably have to do is get gasket remover and spray in there. I may have to do that, I don't know. All right, well, you get the gist of it. This is what I'm going to do to the whole thing, just to try to get it as clean as possible. Okay. All right, so I got all the gasket areas as cleaned up as I can. I'm going to clean them up with a Scotch-Brite pad. But for now, what we're going to do is any passageway where you see like a hole, I will spray through it with the amount. Not exactly sure where they lead, but... Sometimes trying to get it to line up is just not happening. And that's pretty much it. And then I'm just going to take Meg's toothbrush and scrub the outside of that. I'm not going to show you this entire thing, because otherwise this video is just going to get way too long. So with this thing all nice and clean, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get Scotch-Brite, clean up the rest of this, and then I'll spray it one more time. It turns out that surface down there is actually, if you look, it's not a machined surface at all. It's the bottom side of the accelerator pump. The fuel comes in through here. So this part is just basically the base portion of it that mounts down. It's actually not like a sealing area that's really necessary, because fuel does not get sucked in through that end. Oops, that end. Gets sucked in through there, and then it gets pushed up through that hose and out through the accelerator pump hole here. But yeah, so anyway, what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to get Scotch-Brite pad, clean all of this up, and then we're going to clean everything else up. I'm not going to walk you through cleaning everything else up, but I will show you about the float and about fixing this accelerator pump and everything else. But let me get everything cleaned up first. So I got these pieces cleaned up here, and I got some of that linkage stuff cleaned up there. Now, I accidentally shut the camera off. What I wanted to show you here is the idle or mixture adjustment screw here. Depending on the location of this, on this, it's below the throttle blade, so it's towards the engine side, obviously, because this is the base where it mounts to the motor. Since it's down low, usually this has a small amount of fuel passing through to help control the actual idle speed. I took all of this apart, cleaned it. It's bottomed out now. So what do you know is, what would you set this to? So basically, I would set this to 2. So here I have a half, 1, 1.5, 2. That's a good baseline, a good place to start. So I'm going to put all this stuff aside, and I'm going to start working on this accelerator pump here. I still have the upper portion to do. I haven't touched that yet. Now this, I've never had one of these apart. This, I'm not even sure if this is supposed to come off of here. I don't want to break it just in case. But this is a mixture adjustment needle. So this I'm just going to clean off nicely with a rag when I do that. But I got to take this apart because I have to change this plunger. And the plunger, or the accelerator pump, is this piece here. Okay, so I'm going to take this section of hose off of here. We're going to replace that anyway. This has one of these type of clips, so it should be a push down to release. So I may not be able to do this while I'm filming because it's going to be a little too difficult for me. But I got to see. And of course, catching my fingers in the process. So let me see what I got to do to get this apart. Okay, here's this one. There, see, that's that design. So basically I pull down on this to release it. So I'm going to have to do the same with this upper piece. The problem is that spring is strong. That spring is very strong, so I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. And trying to show you that at the same time is probably not going to work. So let me just get this done. So with my nails, I was able to pull down on that spring to get that clip out. So now that should come off of there. This should all come off of here. That should come off of there. And this should come off of here, but I'm going to probably have to... Yeah, it's stuck. I don't know if you saw any of that stuff, me pulling it apart. I know I keep going off camera, but you get the general idea. All right, I'm gonna have to fuss with this. I don't want to bother filming all of this because, like I said, it's just gonna make the video too darn long. All right, so I finally got it separated there, and there it comes out. So now I am going to have to clean all of this up. So this is where the fuel comes in from sitting inside that bowl there. This is where it gets sucked in, and that's where it gets pushed out. So just a pumping mechanism, that's all it is. So let me get this cleaned up. Let me tell you what a pain in the neck getting that thing clean. Whew. All right, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna install this. Now this may look slightly different with like an extra hole or something on it. Don't be too concerned about it. Oops, I'm sorry. Don't be too concerned about it because the original one, or the one that came off of it, had the same thing. See that? So, and once this is in place, you can rotate it. Back up. So basically it is, as I always say, reverse procedure to install. I'm going to put that down. I'm going to have this piece goes here. Oops. This off the edge of the bench. I don't even know what the world this is for, but obviously it serves a purpose. I can put that in place. I can put that in place. Just like such. Now this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this off because this needle here, this sits down in the base where that little plug was. This, and that's what creates a certain amount of flow depending on its position in there. Like great flow, less flow. See that? It just depends on the opening. So this, just gonna clean this off. I don't want to use anything harsh on this. You can use carburetor cleaner, that's fine, obviously, but I don't want to use like sandpaper or anything like that on this. Let's get it cleaned off. Okay, good with that. And let's get this assembled. How did this go? Did this go? Oh shoot, now I gotta look, I gotta make sure of how this goes, I forgot. This, then this, okay. And I said it is a strong little spring. So this I may actually require an assistant to do. I gotta see. This is probably going to be a little on the tough side, but let's see. I'm going to rip my nail doing this. See, I don't know if you can see that. I'm actually catching the spring when I'm trying to do this. So that's not going to fly. And obviously be careful because that spring's going to be under some pressure, so you may wind up making it go flying, and you don't want to do that. So let me just get this. There we go. Whew. And you saw that, the spring went flying, but I actually saw it, so. And here it is. Like I said, you gotta be careful. Question is, how do I do this without making the spring go fly? like that. There we go. Okay, I got it. Okay, so that's all assembled the way it's supposed to be. I think this actually has to go inside here, like that. And then this actually has to go inside there also, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look back at the video. I think that's how it went. But I'll look back, make sure I get this thing all back the way it's supposed to be. Something in that configuration. But let me look at the video just to make sure of how the other goes, I think. There we go. Like that. That's how it's supposed to be. Just like that. Sorry if it got blurry. I gotta see if I can figure out how to control that. Yeah, so now, actually, I think this needs to be in that position because we're that position. Okay. So now, basically, it's going to be reverse procedure to install. I'm not going to go crazy showing you all of this, basically because it's just going to be a gigantic waste of time, and I don't like wasting time on the videos if possible. So let me get all of this installed. All right, so I have that seat. Let's see. I have that seat down there. Just screw it until it stops, and then just give it a little love. Make it just a hair tighter, and that's fine. You don't have to go bananas. I didn't want to show you all of this, but I figured some of this was important. So same here. Screw this down. Oh, you know what? I actually didn't wipe this off. I wanted to wipe this down. I just want to make sure there's nothing on it. Like I feel with my fingers that there is, and it feels fine. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to look through that. I can actually see through it. I'm basically looking down the barrel of this thing, and I can actually see the other side. So it tells me it's nice and clear. And then also, I don't know if you could see that. I hope you did. I just blew through it just to make sure that everything's fine. Now, same thing. I bottomed out, and I just give it a little love, make it a little bit tighter. Again, you don't got to go bananas. So now, there is. I need some parts of this because I need these gaskets here for this surface here. So let me open this up, and then what I'm gonna do is get the accelerator pump assembled, and then I'm gonna basically I'm not gonna show you the full assembly part of this. I'm just gonna go ahead and then do the float bowl and stuff like that. But let me do this. Just opening up this package, taking out this little gasket here. So this little gasket's going to go here. But this little upper plate has to go down in place. Oh, actually the gasket sits in this little upper plate. But this is a much thicker gasket. Okay, maybe there's a choice. Let's see. There we go. There's a much thicker gasket here. So that's going to go like that. Now this, I want to make sure that extra hole that's in here, I want to have it away from anything that's in there that might be a problem. So this, I'm 180 off. Okay, so like I said, that hole does not line up to anything, but I just don't want it to be in the wrong spot. So this has to be like this. because there is a slight notch in here. I don't know if you can see it, that slight cutout that fits around where that seat is for the needle. So now, as this all goes together, you got to get that needle to fit into that seat. And there it goes. If you look really close, you can see it down inside there. See that? How it fitting inside that seat. So now you can put the screws in. So I wanted to show you all of that. Obviously this thing sticks through. I forgot about that. Because this arm actually sticks out the bottom here. So let me start getting everything else assembled, and then we're going to go from there. Another thing I wanted to show you for the base plate here to the bowl assembly here, there is a difference in gaskets. There's two different gaskets you can have. See, one has a small hole, this bottom one has a large hole, this top one. The smaller hole is the one that I actually need. And as you see how it lines up? I could probably use this one and get away with it, but since I have the right one, like if this is the only one that came in the kit, I'm sure it would probably not be a problem. But since this came with the kit, I have the right one. This is the one we're going to use. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this real quick. It's just a little tube here. Like I said, I've actually never done one of these, so this is a first for me. I am assuming I might have to heat this up a little bit. It might make this a little bit easier. Because the problem is I don't want to pinch this with a pair of pliers, but I might have to. But if I heat it up a little bit, it'll make life easier going together. Let me go get something and actually put a little temperature in that thing. So all I'm going to do here is I have a heat gun. I have it on low. I'm going to add some temperature to it. Don't have to get it ridiculously hot, I don't think. But I definitely want it pliable, because right now it's not even pliable. I don't know how well this is going to work. Well, hopefully it works. It's getting hot, like hot to the point where I'm having a problem holding it. Okay. Now I am going to have to use a pair of needle nose pliers, but I got to be careful. Okay, it went on. So the bottom went on and it bottomed out. So hopefully I got the top on. I'm not sure if you can actually, what you can and cannot see. Let's see if I can give you a little better vantage point here. Of course, the longer it takes me to do this, the more it's going to cool off. And there again, having you guys watch makes life a little bit difficult. I may have to get, I have a little butane torch with a heated tip. Oh, there it goes. I got it. Okay. I got it, and I didn't kink it, because if you look at the original one that came off, it was actually kinked right there. Not that it's going to make a huge difference on this setup. Okay, but that base part of it's done for now. I still have that ball and brass plug I got to put in. Now here is the needle and seat and float. So the float, if you shake it, you should be able to hear if there was something ever in it. You can hear sand or whatever, and there's nothing. So it sounds good. Here is the needle and seat part of it. Okay, get it to come down. There's a little spring that goes on the end of this. See that? So I'm going to have to review the instructions or not the instructions, the detailed parts list. I usually just use this. I don't read the instructions because sometimes it get very confusing. And I want to see exactly how this thing is held together. But yeah, let me just continue with this. All right, so the needle and seat that sits in here, that comes out. Now, what is a needle and seat anyway? It is basically the float or the on-off valve, kind of like a toilet. And when the fuel level, as in like the water level in a toilet, gets up to a point, this piece blocks off the passageway, so now fuel can't flow. That's why carbureted vehicles use about 7 psi max, 7 to 9 maybe, fuel pressure. If you go anything above that, you can actually blow past that and the vehicle will flood. Now all of this comes in this kit. This is actually the seat portion. And this has all been replaced before. I'm going to take this apart here. Now this piece here has to do with something with the emissions, and I'm not exactly sure. It has something to do with venting the bowl. So I don't think anything actually applies to this. I think it's all external here, externally driven. This piece gets driven by this piece here. See that piece there drives this piece here. So I'm going to clean this thing up, and then I want to test the choke. Make sure that choke is actually working, because it may not be. But I think it was, but I'm not sure. But let me clean this all up. Basically, I'm going to spray this all out, because this is the fuel inlet here. This is where the fuel comes in. I'm going to spray all this out, clean it all up nice. And then, like I said, I want to verify this works. All right, so I have my power probe here. I shut the sound off on it, but I have it hooked to a battery on the floor there. So if I put power here, or press this button up, it supplies power. If I press this down, it supplies ground. So what I want to do is I want to see if this choke actually works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to supply ground to the frame of this, and I'm going to supply, whoops, my bad. I'm going to supply power here. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but see how that shows 0? That means I have continuity. So this choke is probably okay. But let's add power to it. It takes time because there's a heating element in here. So that heating element has to heat up, obviously. And it should allow that choke to open. Could take a while. This battery's a little on the weak side. It's only 11.5 volts. I'm just feeling for temperature here. Oops. Okay, yeah, it's starting to open on its own. And you got to remember, as the car is running too, it's going to have airflow, and airflow will help kick that open. I think I feel some temperature in there. Yeah, it's free now. But I got some resistance in here from something. I don't know if I'm dragging something or whatever. But there, it's opening free now. See, it's like staying open. Let me take the power off, and hopefully it should start closing on its own. Yeah, I can feel temperature in here now. It's actually it's hot to the touch, especially here. So as this cools down, it should shut the choke because I have nothing holding it back. May take some time. I know, it's like watching paint dry. But as you see, I mean, it's hanging open all on its own. This is still pretty hot. We try not disturbing it. You want to hear me sing? I could sing if you want me to. Yeah, I didn't think so. Alright, I might have to let this thing just sit here. And then we'll have to come back to it. And see how it does. It is a bit slow to react, but there's still temperature in there. So it must have a heat sink in there too. And it's just holding some temperature. Because if you think about it, when you shut it off, you don't need the choke to turn on immediately. It's unnecessary. Only when the engine's cold. So it's going to retain some of the heat. I bet you if I let it sit and come back to this later, it'll be closed. But yeah, it's starting to lose some of its tension. But I'm going to let it just sit there and see what it does. I should do it actually. I'm going to take the end off here. Where's my Phillips? There it is. So I want to just inspect this in case I'm missing something. See that? Those marks there? Usually there's a mark on this black plastic, and that gives you like, it's almost like timing basically. So that would be like, if you're lined up with that, you're like perfectly centered. If you go this way, you're advanced. You go this way, you're retarded, or however it is set up. And there's the spring in there. And there's your linkage in there. It's actually still pretty darn warm. All right, let's do this actually, since we're right here. Maybe I can connect to this somehow. Okay, so there's ground. And then let me add power to this and see if it moves. This thing's calling me a liar. That thing ain't doing nothing. Okay. Ooh, that's hot though. It's really hot, but it ain't doing nothing. All right. Well, we're going to have to revisit this another day because I actually have to get going. I have physical therapy. All right. We're going to leave that alone. All right. So I got the new needle and seat and everything in place. Basically reverse procedure to install. But now I want to know what's the float height. And that's that height at that point where the float stops when this thing's inverted like this. And it's supposed to be 25-30 seconds of an inch. They give you this little ruler to measure. And basically you go off of this mounting flange right here and up to the seam. And it's about 28, something in that range. I mean, you know what? That's perfectly fine. I'm fine with that. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to adjust anything with that. So now we can assemble all this. If you notice, I took the choke off because I stuck it in the freezer. I want to get it nice and cold, and then I'm going to check it to see if it actually works. I got a funny feeling there may be something wrong with it, but we're going to see. Yeah, so let me get a gasket. Let me assemble this, and then that's going to end this video, honestly, because otherwise this video is just getting way, 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 way too long. Let's find the gasket for this. And this is the gasket for this. Let's get the throttle rod where it needs to be. Now, hold on. Get you where you can actually see what I'm doing here. Now we have this rod here that has to come up the front side. We can actually lay this gasket on here. This doesn't have to be all that hard. Careful of your float. The gasket can move around, it's not a problem. Gotta get the linkage to go roughly in the right spot. And then we have this side piece here that has to go in place. So everything's going to fit like such. This linkage is loose, but it's going to be in the right spot. Oh, you know what I forgot? I actually forgot to put that brass ball in. That would have sucked. Or that brass plug on the ball, I should say. Where is it? Where is it? I have a kit that has it in it. Whoops. I did have a kit that had it in it, and I just dropped part of it on the floor. So let's just see. So we're going to reuse the old ball, actually, because it's fine. The old ball goes down in that hole. There's the new brass piece that goes there. I don't know the reasoning for it, but it was there, so we're putting it in. This will go back down in place. That linkage will go up in place. And on the side here, we have to make sure that we are where we need to be with that rod in place. See that, right? See that it's right in between there? Okay. So now we can catch a couple of screws. You may have to wiggle it just a little bit. Get stuff lined up. Get the gasket where it needs to be. And like I said, don't use power tools on this stuff. Whatever you do. Because all you're going to do is ruin it. Oops, wrong one. And never tighten them down until you get everything in place. Make sure everything's nice and loose. Get all the screws caught first. I don't know if I showed you, but I did clean the top portion here, the air horn portion. I did clean all of that up before. You know, once I got the float out and that, I made sure I cleaned everything nice. Put you back a little bit, if you don't mind. Now, technically, there is a torque spec for this. I've never in my life torqued one of these. Everything has a torque spec. But what I'm going to do is just tighten it down by hand. I'm going super easy right now, getting everything caught. I mean, as you can see, if you see my fingers, there's like no pressure involved whatsoever. And that's feeling the screws coming to a stop. Now, I'm feeling everything settle. Plus, if you feel anything binding or anything like give way, then you probably bound something up in the process. So it's just something to keep in mind. So now, I just tighten it up. Just like that. I'll put that piece of linkage back in place for the choke stuff here. If it wants to cooperate, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it wants to. Come on. Yeah, it's not cooperating one bit. I don't know why. Maybe that's why I have the linkage flipped. That's why. No big deal. Now we put that little clip back on. Like that. Make sure it's fully seated. And there you go. That's pretty much done. So Now come Monday, oops, sorry, that's pretty much done. All right, so come Monday, worry about the choke in that, and we're going to install this back on the car then. But for now, we're going to leave it at that, because I got physical therapy, so I'm going to have to leave. But yeah, all right. So hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. There'll be a second part to this come Monday. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.